Here today with Karyn Almendarez, author of Tragedy's Treasures. Karyn, first of all, I'd like to start out with asking you to give us a brief description of the book and what prompted you to write it.
Okay, I'd love to. It's Tragedy's Treasures, a mom's journey through grief. And it is a story of 12 treasures that I experienced, faith-based treasures, before, during, and after the death of my 16-year-old son in an early morning car accident. And what prompted me to write a book, my students, right after Bart's death, my son's name was Bart, and right after his death, I decided I wasn't going to teach school anymore. And at that time, I was teaching in a non-denominational Christian school. And one of the classes that I was teaching was a Bible class. And I thought, I just can't, this is too painful. I can't keep working. And 2 weeks later, I said, okay, I know you want me to go back. So I went back. And so in the years that followed, every class I would have, it was 6th grade, and every class I had, I would tell them what I called were Bart stories. And they were some of these same things that are in the book, you know, things that were just so obvious that God was giving me comfort or letting me know that Bart was where he was supposed to be, et cetera, et cetera. So they encouraged me to write a book. So fast forward, I had a lot of life changes that, you know, are in the book also, and divorced, remarried, moved to Colorado. I mean, how can you get any more drastic than that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I knew I wanted to write a book, but I still didn't know what kind. You know, on a horseback ride on vacation with my husband, it was just the three of us. It was Albert and I and the guide. And the guide was young, and the whole time he was kind of telling me about his family and some struggles and relationships, and he just really opened up to me. And I started talking to him. Well, by the time that 2.5-hour ride was over, I had the name of the book.
Oh, wow.
I had, that each chapter was going to be a treasure. So when the ride was over, we went back to the resort, and I had my Kindle Fire, and I sat out by the swimming pool, and I just started dumping everything that was in my brain. And by the time that was over, I even knew the names of the chapters and what each treasure, the sequencing of it all. I mean, it was a very eerie experience and scary, because then I knew I had to write the book.
Yeah, it's so awesome when I hear stories about how God has communicated to different authors. He doesn't communicate quite so explicitly with me like he has with you, but I got goosebumps sitting here listening to you, how he gave you all of that. And I can't imagine after 2 weeks going back to work. I know with myself, when everything happened in my life, when discovering that my husband had been sexually abusing my daughter, I was devastated. And I was a homeschooling, stay-at-home mom at the time.
Right.
And there was just, I mean, there was so much. And in the intervening years, as I looked back on all of it, I was so glad that I didn't have to work, that I didn't have a full-time job, because I think I probably would have had a nervous breakdown because there was just so much going on. When I started to write my book, I found that in relating the story, that I kind of relived some of that pain. Did you experience any of that while you were writing Tragedy's Treasures?
Yes, about 100,000%. And it took me 6 years to write the book, and several reasons for that. A friend kept telling me, when God wants it finished, it'll be finished, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was painful, and not just the part about Bart, but this book starts kind of in my youth, and it tells why teaching became so important, and then how God used teaching to have me in the right place when Bart died, and it's just a, you can't pick and choose what you want to write. It's an evolution of God's grace. And I stopped and started so many times because it was too painful.
It was painful.
Mm-hmm.
So God gave you time for greater healing.
Yes.
Probably, yeah. I mean, it was 12 years, I believe, after the fact when I started my book. So, I certainly didn't experience the kind of pain that you've mentioned. And I think that's an important aspect when we write a book about our own painful experiences, is that we have to really be fully healed from a lot of it, or otherwise, if there's bitterness that's cropped up or other things,
right,
those things can end up coming through in the book, and those aren't always good things.
No, they're not. But let me disagree with something you said. You said your pain wasn't as much, or I don't know, I'm sorry, I can't quote you, but yes, it was. It was just a different kind of pain. It was every bit as much. Pain, especially with children, pain is pain. And you can't really quantify who has the most. God helps us individually get through what he knows we need to get through. So, don't negate the fact that you went through as much pain as I did, because you did, just in a different form.
In a different form, right. Well, one of the things I would really like to touch on today is how you successfully got your book to Amazon #1 bestseller. And I think where I would like to start is, how did you actually, just begin your writing? What was the writing process?
Well, I've touched on how it began, just scribbled notes and typed notes, and I had files everywhere. And then I learned a little bit more about Scrivener, which is a program where you can, I love it.
I love it too.
And drop things in files and move them around. So that's what I began using. One of my biggest challenges was that I would write a paragraph and stop and want it to be perfect, and so I'd try to edit it right then and there. Bad mistake, because it completely stops and starts the flow of what you're trying to get on paper and the feelings and the emotions. So then I had to go back and put more of the feelings and emotions into it. But the process, that was pretty much the process. I joined a local writers group and worked with them for a while. But what I found was it wasn't a Christian group, and they didn't get it. I mean, they didn't understand really my beliefs that I'm sorry, I'm old. I'm trying to think of the word. There are no mistakes. I mean, God knows everything. And, he doesn't make mistakes. And when we're born and when we die, that's not a mistake. And they couldn't quite get past that, so I stopped going there. But they did one real helpful thing for me. They said, your writing needs more emotion in it. And I think if I quit stopping and starting and trying to make it perfect, it would have had that. So that would be one advice I would give a writer, is just dump it. Just dump it and edit it later. So what else did you ask me? I forgot. I got off on a tangent.
That was it. So let's see. You've talked about some of the things that you've done. Was there anything in particular that you learned as you got started?
Oh, tons and tons. Oh, I learned so much. It's a lifetime learning course to write a book. It really is, almost squeezed into 6 years or 12 years or however many years you're right. But right off the bat, I learned that I needed other people, their help. And I'm not good at that because I'm an only child and I think I can do everything on my own. And I'm an introvert, so I don't like asking for help, But I learned that I needed a plan from point A to point Z of what to do when and what not to worry about. So I bought writing courses, and once you buy one, you start getting emails, thousands and thousands of people, you know, that want you to buy theirs. And another thing I'd suggest is that you find one, read about it, maybe even talk to people that have taken that course and get their recommendations, and then do it start to finish. And I bought so many online courses, and some of them still sit there half finished. But one that I would highly recommend is Shelley Hitt's, her Author Audience Academy. I'm a member of that, as you are, Deb, and it just guides you through step by step what you need to do to be successful. And I'm still going through it. There are still things that I need to do now to sell more books, because as you know, that algorithm that Amazon uses, or maybe you don't, I didn't. The first day your book goes for sale, the more people that buy it in a small amount of time, the greater chances you have for becoming number one in a category. And then you have to know, how do I pick the right categories? And then you learn about keywords. So it's just impossible if you don't have a mentor or a great online class with a support group, which is where you and I met. Was it,
Yeah.
Deb? It was in Shelley's
group.
Course. So I would definitely suggest investing in a course, and maybe Scrivener. But don't just hop in and buy everything, because then you're going to watch it for 5 minutes and then it sits on your computer.
I know. I've made that same mistake that you have in, buying courses and never finishing them.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to a point in the course where I'm just snagged and can't get past it, and then I've just let it go.
Yeah.
I did realize when I first started freelance writing that I really knew nothing whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And so I did take a lot of short online courses through Writer's Digest, but then I also invested in a program through the Christian Writers Guild that Jerry Jenkins was running at the time, has no longer is. But I definitely have not made that Amazon bestseller list. And I didn't realize, when you talk about that short amount of time, are we talking about a 24-hour period or
yes,
6 hours?
24-hour period. And then wherever you reach at that point, like 24 to 48-hour period, it actually, I think it goes maybe for 2 weeks, Deb, now that you said that. But the crucial part is the first 24 to 48 hours. Your rankings pretty much stay there for 30 days. And then after that, the new authors' books move in because everybody's buying their books. And so they start rising to the top. But, it's so important to not only just write, but to start a website, to start blogging, to start an email list. I knew so many people in Fort Worth that knew Bart, and that was my core. Those were my peeps. Those were my supporters. And then people here where I live, and my daughter and my 4 grandchildren and her husband live in Beaumont, Texas. And she knows a lot of people there and a lot of college friends. So you just start kind of gathering your tribe from everybody that's important to you. And then you have to know how to let them know. And that's where a friend of mine who I met online, but we're friends. Her name is Laura Cole Gonzalez, and she wrote a book called Healthy Business, Healthy You Toolbox. And she actually, we bartered. She asked me to edit her book because she wanted to put it on Kindle. And she helped me so much with all the social media ins and outs and the Amazon, how to get #1. And she even showed me how to make a Facebook group and do an author page on Facebook. And so without her teaching me that, and Shelley does that too in her course. She has information on social media and how to build your list of followers.
So you had this core group of people, a support team. What did they do to help you reach this level?
Actually, it was more They did help, but it was Laura's communication with them. She helped me form this Facebook author group, and she was also able to post things in there. So as the launch got close, she actually sent them messages through Facebook on, okay, what to do next. Text this, Twitter, Facebook, put it out on social media, send this to your friends to buy the book today. And that's what pushed it to #1 on Amazon. And it wasn't #1 in the 8 million books or how many books they have. It was in the category.
In the category.
Right.
Well, and I think that's just as important. I mean, every book has its own category, its own genre.
Correct.
So, I mean, you know, even the bestseller lists on the New York Times, they're broken out by genre.
Correct.
So that it made #1 in its category is still saying something, very much so. So Laura actually provided she provided the text so that they didn't actually have to come up with what to say on
Exactly. She provided the framework and what the steps of do this, do this, do this. And I had other core people in Fort Worth, Texas, where I had spent my whole life until I moved here. And they're like, you know, pebbles in the pond. They would send this email, also using email, Facebook message to all of their friends. And then they would send it to all of their friends. And not all of those people bought the book, but it sure does help when you're nearing your launch day.
Right. Well, and, you know, it exponentially. I mean, you only have so many friends on Facebook and in your list, but each of those people have a number of friends that they know. So it, you know, exponentially increased that reach.
It does.
That I think that is something that a lot of authors fail to understand is that we can leverage our fan base in that way. Fans really do want to help promote your work. They like to feel that, hey, I'm a part of this person's success.
That's
and
right.
those, you know, readers who really enjoy reading what we do, or they are touched by what we talk about if we're doing nonfiction.
Right.
It's like going to a movie and you see a movie that you absolutely love. Well, you don't keep quiet about it. You're telling your friends, you got to go see this movie. It was awesome. So, but what I think is hard to learn is that, you know, creating those tweets or those Facebook posts, those tweets that, you know, that you can send out for them to share. I've read a book, Tim Grail, the book launch blueprint. And
yes.
He has a full chapter in his book about, you know, how to do that, you know, how to share the graphics, how to make those available, making it as easy as possible with your friends and your fans to get the word out. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. I mean, how did you feel as you watched those numbers go up and it hit #1?
I pretty much just cried all day because out of joy. I mean, it's such a, you know, I took that day off from teaching because I knew there was no way I could teach.
Yeah, you could focus. Yeah.
And focus. It was constant, you know, watching and communicating with all of my friends and family. And actually, Laura did a live interview with me, just like you're doing today. And, you know, doing that. And, by nighttime, I was exhausted. It was a steamroller day that once the snowball started really small that morning when I got up, and, you know, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger, and I was struggling like a hamster in a wheel to keep up. It was exciting, and I'm grateful. Now, you know, when we write books, we market our own books. So now that the 30 days is up and people, it's my job to make sure people know about the book. You have to get the message out there. So that's what I'm working on now.
Well, and Tragedies Treasures launched last year. So is there anything that you're working on now?
I should be working on it, yes. No, I am. I'm working on blogging consistently because I just quit doing that. In January, I just stopped. I didn't have the mental energy for it. I was still teaching second grade. Blogging consistently. I have, I think it's 115 email subscribers, which may sound like a lot, but it's not. And I want to build that so that when I do start working on a new book, I can ask for their input and make them feel like they're involved in that process. And I do have an idea. I want to do a companion journal to go with the book, Tragedies, Treasures, A Mom's Journey Through Grief. So I want to do that. I'm working on an idea that I don't want to tell you yet because I don't want somebody else to steal it for another nonfiction book. But I can tell you that hope will be the topic, and it will be the story not of me, but of other people's struggles and how they got through their hardships to hope. So that is going to be my next project.
Yeah. Hope. Something that's so missing in today's world.
Oh.
Sounds like a terrific topic. You've mentioned several things. Are all those things what you really hope to accomplish next, or is that next book what you hope to accomplish next?
I want to build my fan base first. That's my first priority. I think that's so important. I want to get better at communicating with them on a regular basis so they trust me and I don't say, okay, I'm going to send this newsletter out once a month and they don't see it for 6 months.
Yeah. Guilty.
Guilty as charged. So that is my first priority. And then my second priority, I've already asked permission for a couple of people that I've just run into to interview them for the next book. So I'll interview them maybe on Vimeo like we're doing today and then have that transcribed and start working on that book. But even before I do that, I feel like I need to get the journal out to pair up with the book I already have because I want to speak at churches, or that's another thing I forgot to tell you. Throw that in the mix. I want to do a little bit of speaking, and I want to have that available to partner up with the book. So, I mean, you tell me, Deb, what do you think I should do first? It's kind of like all these things are spinning around in my head and, you know.
Well, and I do agree that partner, the journal, to Tragedies, Treasures is probably the better option. But there's nothing saying that you can't be working on all these things at the same time. Because from one day to the next, God may be giving you specific direction, or He may have led you through something that is specific to that book on hope, and you've got to get that on paper.
Yeah.
I know Shelley talks a lot about focus, and I do agree with that. But there are days when, I've worked on, as an editor, there's days where I've worked on the same manuscript for, hours and hours every day.
Oh, sure.
It's like, I need a break. I have to turn to something different. And when you're writing a book, sometimes that's just how it is. You have to allow yourself time away from it sometimes and turn to something else. So, I really think you're doing the right thing in working on building that fan base, but at the same time not neglecting working on the journal or working on the other book pieces that that you can be pulling together right now. So.
Yeah, and I just in May retired from teaching, so I have so much more time. And I'm not, thinking about school all the time and lesson plans and meetings and that kind of thing. I love teaching, but I'm also going to love having more time to write. So I'm excited for that. That's a blessing.
Well, thanks for being with us today, Karyn. If people want to find you online, where can they go?
They can go to openyourtreasures@gmail.com. They can go to my website, which is www.openyourtreasures.com. my name is spelled really funny, so not funny, but my sweet mother, instead of giving me a name that everybody can spell for Karyn, used a Y instead of an E because she wanted me to be different. Well, here I am, and nobody remembers how to spell it. But you can also go to Karyn Almendarez, ALMENDAREZ.com.
Terrific. Well, thanks again so much for sharing your journey.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Deb, for being willing to ask me these questions and to help me spread the news of the book. And if I may say that the book is not just for parents who have lost children. I've had readers tell me that it helped them even if they've lost, we all lose people we love, mothers, fathers, grandparents, and they've shared with me, especially one part of the book that tells what helped me when I lost Bart as far as what people did or what they said and what was not helpful. So people have commented that really helps them know how to relate to someone who's had a tragic loss in their life. So thank you.
You're welcome, and good luck with the book and
thank you
that you are working on right now.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Deb.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.